Welcome, everybody, to the Banyan Books and Sound podcast, In Conversation. I'm Ross McKeechee, and I'm lucky enough to be joined today by Matt Kahn. He is a spiritual teacher, highly attuned empathic healer, and the author of a few great books. The first being Whatever Arises, Love That. His second book, Everything is Here to Help You. And his newest book, The Universe Always Has a Plan, The 10 Golden Rules of Letting Go. A wonderful book. I'd like to start by welcoming you. Welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's truly an honor to be here.
Really honored to have you. You're definitely a favorite around Banyan Books. And just wanted to start by saying you've played a big role in my life. So thank you for that.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I'm honored to know that I played that role for you. It's again, humbled, and what an honor.
The first thing I want to ask is just about your new book. It's a wonderful book, and I'm just curious about the inspiration for it and your writing process.
It's amazing because, when I wrote it, obviously as a channel, everything kind of comes to me very instantaneously. I had no idea the world was going to be in the state it's in. I had no idea that this book would be coming out the perfect time to be like the perfect roadmap or, manual to help everyone really take bold leaps in their awakening journey and to really step by step, go through and support Earth's ascension. So I had no idea this was going to happen. The book title is The Universe Always Has a Plan, and it had a plan that I wasn't fully aware of. So that was, I thought, very on the mark. But as far as my writing process with this book, I was going through a lot of deep healing in my personal life, a lot of change, a lot of transition, and I was in a really raw place. And what's interesting is when I usually write a book, I usually wake up first thing in the morning and I write a couple hours of content, and then I come back in the afternoon and I edit what I just wrote, and then the next day I move on. I'm able to write a manuscript pretty expediently that way. For some reason, with how raw I was feeling and the healing I was going through, I could only write this book late at night. So I wrote this book from like 11 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning. And being up with the moon and, the silence of, life is asleep, but I'm up in this, crazy inspired place with lightning coming through my body as I'm channeling what feels like the words the world needs to hear, and pressing save 1,000 times, making sure this is this is amazing, because it's an amazing process when something comes through you. And it would be the same process as if you were reading someone else's book that inspired or changed your life. You would be like, oh my God, this is incredible. And when it comes through me like that, it's the same experience. Not because I'm writing it, but because I'm just in the presence of witnessing the universe's power and fury to bring to the world a truth that cannot be denied, and a truth that only heals through the power of love. And as I just felt this coming through me, I just knew, this is actually the fastest I've ever written a book, and I wasn't trying to write it fast. It's just poured through me, first draft in about a month, which is very fast. And then I sent it off to my publisher, and I was waiting, and they came back with like 4 edits, and I was like, oh my God. This book is a truly powerful and special book, and I'm just so honored to have been the space it came through.
Oh, wonderful. It is a truly wonderful book. Just for anybody who doesn't know, it's got these 10 golden rules for letting go. And as Matt mentioned, each chapter starts with a personal story. So he relates it to his life, and then he gives a mantra for that rule, gives an exercise. And then what I really love is the spiritual myth busting.
Everyone loves it. It probably has to be a part of every book I write now. I probably have to do a spiritual myth busting for every chapter, because I had so much fun channeling it. And it was, and I started to see that was a theme of the book, of doing this spiritual myth busting section. Ooh,
Are you
sorry.
still with me, Matt?
Oh yeah, yeah. Did it freeze for a second?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
know
I'm
what?
totally.
Your voice has been crystal clear, but your video is frozen in a beautiful shot of you with a big smile.
Oh, that's funny because you froze too, so you can still hear me perfect.
I
Um,
can still.
yeah, the spiritual myth busting section was so fun to channel, and I'd often channel these sections and not even know where I was going with it, and just letting it come through. And it's really a time in history where we have to really honor the teachings that brought us to this point. There's nothing wrong with any teaching. It's just there's a point where teachings kind of expire and lose their potency. And I think we're at a point in history where it's important to embrace teachings that are going to help us unravel fear versus perpetuate fear, to help us cultivate love versus hide from love. So it was really amazing to really kind of in the most direct way just point people to a brand new horizon of teachings that really is rooted in oneness, that is expressed and conveyed with love, and really gives people a more functional way to live aligned with spirit instead of chasing after these goals. And so it's truly my honor to be able to provide that.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Um, you give a lot of attention to emotions,
Yeah.
which some might call more feminine spirituality and this heart-centered path. So I'm just curious if you can
Yeah.
speak a little bit to the importance of honoring and working with emotion for our audience.
Absolutely, and I agree. Emotions tends to be a feminine quality, but the interesting thing is consciousness itself is a feminine energy. Or I would say this: consciousness actually is neither feminine nor masculine. It's the combination, and it's the transcendence of both. The receiving of consciousness is a feminine action, and the seeking of consciousness is a masculine action. And so, what happens, just if we look at our world, it's going through this incredible upheaval with coronavirus. We have a society that is way too steeped in the masculine, and the feminine has been suppressed for many lifetimes, and we all know about examples of that. And on the spiritual path, it's been much of the same, where a lot of people have been seeking wisdom, seeking consciousness, seeking resolution, seeking healing. And there's more people seeking with the masculine, there are people receiving what they're seeking from the feminine. So when my teachings are always based on heart-centered consciousness, love, the importance of that is just as the world needs to balance out the masculine with the feminine. In the same way, in the spiritual path, we need to balance out the masculine pursuit for greater spiritual awareness or compassion or forgiveness. And we need to balance it with knowing how to receive it, right? There's an illusion that says, if I seek it, I will find it. And once I find it, I will receive it. But the truth is once I learn how to receive it, only then will it be found, which sounds backwards to people, but we've been trained to interpret things in a very masculine forward way. And so in order for us to experience things with the balance of the masculine and feminine, we have to give such attention, positive attention to our emotions, because it's our emotions and our relationships with our feelings that truly shows us how aligned in spirit, how integrated, how congruent we truly are. It's one thing to have experiences of transcendence and oneness and awakening, but where the rubber hits the road is, what is your relationship with your personal self? When emotions arise, what space do you hold? And it's not a question of judgment, it's just a question of perspective. And so I think we're done with the days of let us go for spirit and transcend the lower body and looking at the human body as less than. The human body is an instrument of immaculate perfection, and it was miraculously created by the spirit that all of us are here to remember and reconnect with. And if we're going to try to connect with heaven by trying to bypass our physical forms, we're just going to spin in purgatory for longer periods of time. So the way we really touch into spirit, the way we really complete our awakening journey, the way we really exit out of dark night of the soul and into the paradise of our own inner heaven, the true way we do this is by bringing into our body, into our feelings, the love, the nourishment, the sustenance, the attention, and the presence that is really treating our body the way the universe views us. And when we learn to treat ourselves the way spirit always treats us, then there's no separation between us and source, and oneness can be a naturally lived experience, not something else to chase.
Would you say that surrender is a more feminine aspect? In that surrender, is this where the receiving happens, or?
I would say that surrender is preparing to receive. So surrender is where the wisdom of the masculine kind of unpacks its armor, sets down its weapons, sets down its defenses, right? It's the masculine, it's the intelligence of the masculine saying, I've taken it this far. And I think, and this is where really in surrender, it's where the warrior becomes the lover on a very existential level. The ability to receive is a feminine quality, but the ability to surrender is the moment where the unconscious masculine becomes conscious of its purpose and role. That the purpose of the masculine is to, on one level, protect the feminine until an auspicious point in time. And that auspicious point in time is simultaneously when the feminine is ready to awaken to its power, equal to the masculine, and where the masculine helps the feminine into its power by surrendering all its defenses. And instead of playing the role as being someone's defender, guardian, or protector, it becomes the beloved, the lover, the honorer, the adorer. And it's where the masculine truly surrenders to the feminine, where the mind turns inward and merges into the heart. And as the mind and the heart become one, as the masculine and feminine merge, as the left and right hemispheres of the brain come together in greater coherence, what we have awakening within us is a truth, a vibration, and a consciousness beyond polarity, beyond opposites, beyond this versus that, beyond fear versus love, light versus dark. And we find ourselves settling into what we call 0 point, which is the stillness, the openness, the emptiness, and the presence that is our natural state of being, that is animating this body, that is dressing up as you, fulfilling the universe's most wildly inconceivable dream it has, which is just to live as you. It's amazing.
Yeah. You know, I'm just pinching myself a little bit that I'm sitting here having this. I've watched so many YouTube videos, and I'm just sitting here having a conversation with you. So it's really an honor for me.
Now you know how I feel.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel with you, you know, and it's amazing because my entire life I've always felt that way with people. I've always had this, I always find God in everything. And it's not something I look for. It's something that for me, I was born with this ability to see it. It's something so obvious I can't turn away. So whenever I'm talking to one, I'm talking to the God within them, and everything about them is included in that. But I've always had this, and I've always had this interesting sense of, I could sense the distinction of like, I see the reverence of how I feel in someone's presence, and I can also feel how they feel in their own presence. And so that's the fury that led to my spiritual path, eventually becoming a teacher and a healer, where I thought, what can I do to help people experience themselves the way I experience them? What can I do to help people experience themselves the way Source does? That became the drive of what I do. Like you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying about me, like, you know, this is like a live YouTube video right now. And I sit here with you going, God, what a gorgeous expression of spirit. What a beautiful man. What a wonderful soul. And so truly, it's my experience of you as well.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
You just touched on something that I wanted to ask about, which is your journey in becoming a teacher. I've heard a bit about your childhood through your books, but actual in your adult life, was there a clear decision point, or what was that journey?
You know, it was a very interesting one. So there was a point where, you know, I had an out-of-body experience at 8, which I've talked about a lot. I've had experiences of talking with my angels and guides, which started when I was about 18 years old, or in my 20s, between 18 and 20 something. I always, every time I'm interviewed, I say a different age. I can't even remember. But somewhere in that period, I started in my parents' house in my bedroom, started talking with my guides, and they would teach me things and show me things. And it was all the things I was interested in my entire life. It was all the things I wish I was learning in school. You know, when I went to school, it was just like um, half the stuff I was taught I didn't really believe, but it was kind of, I had this really interesting feeling of like, just memorize it, get through this process, and then someday we'll get to what you really want to learn. And that's how I looked at school, just play the game, right? Like a lot of people do. And so as I began to evolve and talk with my guides, and there was a process where I would be inspired by them to deliver a message to someone, like in the grocery store. Hey, I'm so sorry. My heart feels like it's going to explode if I don't say this to you. And then they would erupt in tears. Oh my God, how did you know? And I would deliver these messages. And I didn't know how I did it. I just knew if I didn't, I felt like I was going to just explode. And so then I was guided by my guides to go into a spiritual bookstore. And they said, hey, tell them about this experience. And I asked the bookstore person, hey, why do I see purple energy everywhere? They said, take our psychic development course. Okay. So I'd go to the psychic development course. And 3 weeks into it, they asked me to teach it. And I thought, I'm just here to learn, man. What are you talking about? And they said, they sat me down at a psychic fair and they said, can you give a reading? And I said, I don't know what that is. And I sat down for 3 seconds. I was like, what am I doing? And then it just started coming out. And I guess I can do this. And then a month later, I had sessions scheduled, and I'm doing this work, and I literally am, you know, from that point to now, it's been about 15 years. I learned about all of this by doing it while not knowing how I'm doing it while I was doing it. So as I'm doing it, I'm like doing it, and I'm standing next to myself, watching and listening. And then I didn't know about any other spiritual path because I didn't do a lot of reading. I just did channeling. So I learned about all these spiritual paths by piecing it together and listening to people, what they would tell me for 15 years. And so I have a very interesting way that I've come to this path. It's not learned book knowledge. It's just direct experience and literally watching myself and watching people I'm working with for 15 years. And that's how I became who I am, which is I come from a very interesting perspective, and I'm able to see things from a point of view that is not limited by concept. And for my teachings, my interest is I want to give people experiences. I don't want them just to know we are one. I want them to experience it like I do. And so my chess game is, how can I get someone to have their own experience of this reality? And that's what's fun for me. And so when I'm doing a teaching, or I'm doing a teaching on a concept, and I'll teach it 3 different ways, it's just because I'm giving people different entry points into a direct experience. Not just that I understand that, but I feel that within me, and it will make me different and no longer the same ever again. Like that's what I live for, is those moments of, and I'm different, you know? And so that for me, when I'm on stage, not just as a healer or teacher, for me, this is like living art. This is like performance art. This, you know, because it is spirit coming through me, but it is just the dance of how can we take people from here to here in the most loving way, to do it in a way where we reduce the risk that they're going to take life out on themselves and judge themselves in any way. And how can we give people direct experiences of all these things we've read about, heard about, and want so much in our lives? How do we turn the lights on now? And that for me is the joy of what I do. And it's why I love what I do. And I love what I do just as I did the first day I've done this. And that for me is the purity of the offering, that it never gets old. It never gets like, you know, it's always like the first time, always. And it's still that way for me. And that's what I love about it.
Beautiful. And that, you know, that really comes through. I always notice that For anybody who doesn't know, Matt has a YouTube channel. He's got, I think, got more than 16 million viewers
Almost
now.
18 now. Yeah, almost 18.
Keep boop, boop, boop. And I always notice how much fun you're having,
Yeah.
and that you're just right there in the joy of the experience and the humor that you bring to not only your teaching, but the way you teach others to try and bring humor into. There's a question in this. What is the significance of bringing that lightness and humor into the game of evolution and into the game of being in relationship to self and others?
It's a very interesting thing because I've always been a very funny person. I've always been a performer, as a child actor, which was different. I wasn't good at like any dialogue a screenwriter could write. I was good if it was an improv because I'm a channel. So if I could write my own lines, I was great. And I've always had just this very funny side of me. And for me, it wasn't like I come up with jokes. It was just jokes would jump out of me. When you're a kid, it's sometimes an inappropriate terrain. But when I discovered the spiritual path, again, I didn't know anything other than what I was being brought to teach and what the guides showed me, what the universe showed me. So I saw a very specific path. And when I came into this journey, I was very surprised to know that, and again, everyone has the right to their own path and journey. So that didn't surprise me. What surprised me was just the way it seemed so clear to me, the way it was initially received by some of the people in the field, where I thought, oh, I'm going to hang out with all my superhero friends. And I thought, well, I'm either onto something or I'm completely crazy. And what I started to see was I'd go to spiritual events just to kind of check out the feel. And I would find a lot of people yearning for spirit, but rejecting their personality along the way. And of course, there's a lot of linking of personality with ego, which isn't quite the truth, right? We can't just say ego is personality, because then we're on these old spiritual paths where we're trying to be spiritual beings with no personality, which actually creates so much more ego. It's incredible. And what I found was, as I let more of my personality through in my transmission, the humor was just a way of showing people, we're going to awaken with our personalities. When you talk to people on the other side who have passed away in heaven, they still have their personalities. In fact, their personalities are amplified to what they couldn't express in the human plane with their conditioning. They're even more uninhibited. And so I didn't decide like, hey, I'm going to be funny one day. It just started happening, and I wouldn't plan it. And then I started getting really popular for my humor. And what was amazing was I was very clear about, every time I step on stage, I always say this to myself every single time. Every single time I say to myself, I don't feel like being funny today. Because the truth is, I don't care if I'm funny. I only care if it's beautiful. I want the teaching to be beautiful. I want it to be heart-centered, and I want people to burst into the tears of revelation and glory. All I care about is beautiful, heart-centered, beautiful. And somewhere in the teaching, something happens and just it pours out. And I notice that it always happens at times when the audience needs to integrate the energy I'm channeling. So people are receiving the energy, and when there's something that needs to be integrated, I literally do a joke, which isn't planned by me. And then I go back to the teaching. And it's a very effective process. It's just not something I plan. I can't teach people to do this. I can't say at the 14-minute mark, right? 2 archangels and a master walk into a bar, right? You can't teach or script it. It just, and the things I come up with, and I joke with myself all day, like a comedian who's always writing material wherever they go. I'm always a teacher downloading teachings. Anything inspires a teaching. And I have jokes that come to me all day. I laugh all day, whether there's anyone watching me or not. I don't even, right?
That's awesome.
My life is hysterical. For me, it's a lot of cooking. So I cook a lot. And I come up with jokes, and then I tuck them away going, if it's meant to be, one of those jokes is going to come through. And inevitably on stage at the perfect time, like the last one I came up with, I think on stage, was about being a gaslight worker.
Oh yeah. So,
The gaslighting of spiritual people, the gaslight worker. And I told myself, one of this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this on stage for sure. That's hilarious. But I have no attachment. Like, and I'm so happy that I don't need, like, I don't take it on like, oh my God, people like when I'm funny. I need to totally be funny. It's not how it works. It's not how it works. You cannot plan to be funny. Um, if I were working in a field as a stand-up comedian, which I never would, because that's when you're expected to be funny, and that's not that for me kills the energy. I don't have to be funny in my field. And so that lets me be funny, right? If I had to be funny in my field, I have to be compelling. I have to be inspirational. I have to be transformative. For me, that's no pressure. That just feels natural. But if I had to be funny, like I had to be funny, that kills it for me. I just, for me, I don't have to be funny for anything. And it just creates this space where there are moments where the funny finds me.
hey, yeah, it's wonderful to watch. It's very wonderful to watch. Yeah, and it's nice to be entertained while we're integrating those energies.
So important, honestly, because again, you go to a spiritual event, you soak and you steep in your spiritual self. And a lot of the pain that people feel is it's their personal self saying, hey, I'm feeling left out of this. I'm feeling like I'm your child that you put into daycare outside of this event, and I'm missing mom and dad, versus let's actually do what I consider the real work, which is let's integrate, let's first transform and heal the personal self out of the conditioning that it took on from its family of origin. And then let's merge this transformed personal self as a space through which the higher self will embody. And let's bring these two things together. Because again, we're no longer going to look at spirituality through the lens of polarity. It's no longer about from hell to heaven, from dark to light. It's no longer from masculine to feminine. It's not from doing to being. These were very old concepts when the earth was still in a third dimensional alignment. And when Earth is still in 3D, yeah, that's the path. It's linear from one extreme to the other. But Earth is now ascending into 5D consciousness. And this is not such a overly simplified trajectory. And I think sometimes for the human mind, if we can oversimplify it, we have the confidence of going, now I get it. And most people who get it don't embody it. They just either repeat it to themselves or other people who seem misinformed. So really, 5D consciousness is not where we go from one extreme to the other. It's where we bring two sides together. And that's really the recipe for wholeness. And that, for me, is what's really exciting, because I want everyone to know how whole they are. And I want everyone, even for one moment, to bask in the glory of their eternal light, just for even one moment before they leave this earth plane, one moment of seeing themselves as Source does. And that for me is just the passion of what I do.
It's amazing how many of my long list of questions you seem to have tuned into and answered. Just, I love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like crossing them off as you're talking. Yeah, just don't need that one anymore. Okay. I did have a question about 3D and 5D consciousness. Sure. You mostly answered it, but just what are some signposts for people to understand the distinction between 3D and moving into 5D consciousness?
Yeah, 3D is all about the oscillation between highs and lows. So 3D consciousness is oftentimes, I'm feeling good one day, I'm feeling not so good. And it gets a little tricky because as empaths, as energetically sensitive beings, we go from feeling our own alignment of spirit to the low is usually I'm taking on energy of others around me and I'm not aware of it. But typically 3D is about the oscillating back and forth between the opposites. And in 3D, what we're learning about the opposites, like, the sun rises, it sets, then the moon comes out, and from, winter to spring to summer to fall, we're 3D, we're basically learning everything changes. And if we really wake up in 3D, what we're really learning is everything changes on its own trajectory and not necessarily because of what I do and don't do, right? One of the really big signs of someone who's still steeped in 3D is blaming themselves for what does or doesn't happen. And it doesn't mean we don't have free will, but our free will is, I have the free will to decide how I'm going to view something. And I'm making a choice not to make an outcome happen, but I'm making a choice as a way of constantly verifying what vibration I wish to continually anchor in my energy field. So when we wake up out of 3D, it's a nice idea that I'm going to do all these things and make this outcome happen. And maybe it will, and maybe it won't. But what we're really doing with choices is we're really using choices to constantly bring our highest ethics and values into inaction, into inspired action. And the more we're anchoring a higher vibration, the more we let the universe work through us and bring to us what is the next step in our journey. So when we master third dimension, we are making choices based on our ethics, not on outcomes, and we are detached from outcome, knowing it's totally fine to want everything you want as deeply and desperately as you may want it. But to know, as the book says, the universe has a plan, and it may be similar or different to what you're envisioning. But when we wake up out of 3D, we're open to that plan. Then in 4D is the dimension of time. I often describe it as the corridor or the hallway from 3D to fifth dimension. And in 4D, we are waking up to the revelation of spirit, a bigger plan, my soul's reality, the difference between how my soul functions and how my ego operates. It's where we usually go through dark night of the soul, the facing of our shadow, the integration of the unconsciousness and suppressed feelings. And really the 4D is really, and 4D is also where people get very caught up in spiritual superstition. It's where fear can still exist, but it exists in spiritual perspectives, and it's where a lot of people go really down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories of every level. And then as you start to exit that hallway into 5D, we find unity consciousness. Unity consciousness being the oneness between self and source. We find ourselves able, on the 5D, we learn to master our empathic sensitivities. We learn to feel our own vibration in every moment, not just using our body to emotionally interpret the perceptions of other people's experiences. This is really where we go from codependence to coherence and to interdependence, and where we learn to really create relationships rooted in wholeness, where I'm whole, the other person is whole, and we merge and meet as wholeness, not as I'm fragmented, you're fragmented, and together we even each other out while mildly despising each other. Before we go to the next kirtan, which I know sounds so romantic, and I know, oh God, let me vision board that. Hate my partner mildly before we go to Krishna Das. Yes. Winning.
For the kirtan.
Right? Or like I'm driving, right? You're driving through traffic at fast pace. I'm late to yoga. or someone's sitting too close to you in meditation, right? Right? You're interrupting my 0-point experience. It's all amazing. But 5D is where we get to unity consciousness, and it's where we really start to experience spirit in the body. And of course, the fourth dimension is where we're really healing and processing the density of human emotions. And we're doing it so that the human vessel can be a space through which, or a container through which spirit flows in the fifth dimension. And so 5D is really where we get a lot of rest and resolve from how tumultuous the healing journey was in the third dimension, how much we transmute the fourth dimension. And we're also starting to see that while our individual lives in 5D are aligned, we're also noticing the world is going through the same experience we've gone through. And we're holding space, we're anchoring the light, and we're watching not a world fall apart, die or dissolve, but we're watching a new world being birthed and blossomed. And of course, in order for something new to be born, The old must dissolve. And that's where we're at right now in the world, is we're watching a new world being born, while the world, who may not have known anything about spiritual evolution, is being pulled out of 3D, pushed through 4th D, and into a 5th-dimensional timeline. And I believe this is happening so quickly because of the amount of light workers on the planet who have been anchoring light and doing so much good inner work for so many years. I believe we fast-track the timeline shift. I really do. So this is actually a good thing that's happening. Obviously, my heart goes out to anyone who's lost family members during this process, and businesses have been completely leveled on so many levels, and there's so much loss. And I say all this not to equally honor all the losses, because that's an important part of the process, is to grieve the loss of the old. But there's so much new being born. And when all is said and done, every single person that experienced any amount of loss will be given such new opportunities that they won't even believe the new reality they'll find. And so it's a very exciting time for all of us, but there's a clear trajectory of third dimension, 4th dimension, 5th dimension. And there are parts of us that are kind of in a few different places. And so this journey is really about bringing all of this, all of us, into that same vibration of light.
Beautiful. Matt, I think that's a really perfect note to end things on, just touching on the present situation. And yeah, that would have been my last question, and you went right into it. So,
ta-da!
I don't want to put you on the spot, so
sure.
we can always edit this part out if it isn't a go. But if there's a repeat after me, that we could walk everybody through. Anybody who's being challenged right now with the coronavirus, losing jobs, losing family members, if there's anything that feels inspired.
Oh, totally. Let's do a repeat after me. Oh, I love challenges. This is so good. Okay. So let's, and okay. So if I do the repeat after me, you have to be the one repeating it. Okay.
I will.
Because then you'll help me pace it. Yeah. I love that. All right. So in order to really help make this time of uncertainty a chance to be more aligned in spirit, try these words out loud. I accept. That an experience of adversity is only delivering me to the opposite side of opportunity. Where I see death, only birth is occurring. Where I see destruction, only reconstruction remains. Where I sense fear, our spaces only love is healing. Where I see separation between people, is only a transformation. Allowing the revelation of oneness to emerge. And where I see fear-based news headlines, I'm only watching an old guard lose its grip of control on humanity. As humanity awakens to the autonomy and sovereignty of free will, as we come together and assemble, even on a vibrational level, to insist the world we wish to live in, instead of allowing others to tell us the way we're meant to be. This is our awakening. This is our ascension. And the light welcomes me. Just as I am. whether I feel complete in my journey or not.
Whether I feel complete in my journey or not.
And so I'm free.
And so I'm free.
And so it is.
And so it is. Matt Kahn, thank you so much.
My pleasure. What an honor. This has been such a great dialogue, and I'm honored. Thank you.
Likewise. If anybody is interested to check out more of Matt's work, you can visit his website. Correct me if I'm wrong, mattkahn.org.
Yes.
Check him out on YouTube, Matt Kahn, All for Love. And I just want to say a special thanks to the team behind the scenes here with Banyan Books, Jacob Steele, our producer and events coordinator, Carly Laughlin, who does all the editing, and Laura Resnick, who does our music. And of course, all the Banyan staff who aren't able to work right now. We're on a skeleton staff, still doing only online and phone orders, and there's special discounts on right now. So make sure you go out and buy, for sure, Matt's newest book, if not his other.
And support Banyan Books, for sure. Right. I love you guys. You guys are always amazing. And, you know, I'm excited for us to work to come together in person once again soon.
Likewise.
Thanks, brother.